Hi, everyone. Welcome to Go Local Live at the Rhode Island State House. I'm Go Local News editor Kate Nagel. Thanks for joining us this Thursday during recess week, but there's still plenty of folks hard at work up here. The assembly might be out, but elected officials are in. I'd like to welcome my first guest, Secretary of State Nellie Gorbea. Thank you for joining us today.
Okay, thank you so much.
There's been a busy few weeks for you, going to the public, going to the press, making some announcements. I want to start off with election security. Basically releasing the report as to where Rhode Island stands. Now, when you took office, we did see there was a report calling for some changes, but you've basically given an update to folks to where things stand.
Yes, absolutely. And this is particularly important because there was a 60 Minutes episode in which they focused on this issue. Thankfully, in Rhode Island, we're ahead of the curve of most states. And so from the minute I came into office, I wanted to make sure that we improved access to the ballot box, but then at the same time, really protected the integrity of the vote. And that's all that this is all about. So the first thing we did is we made sure that our voting systems are state of the art with 4 layers of security. We had new voting machines in the entire state. We were one of the very few states to do that, actually. And since then, we've done a lot of upgrading to our networks, our databases, just to make sure we've developed partnerships with the Department of Homeland Security, our own state of Rhode Island's cybersecurity expert, and even the Rhode Island National Guard, which has a cybersecurity unit, works with us, role-playing different scenarios to make sure that we're prepared.
And even before, as these changes were being made, Rhode Island was given one of the top rankings nationally, one of the top 10 states for cybersecurity and for election security.
And I'm very proud of that, yes, by the Center of American Progress. And I think that really points to the hard work that we've done over the last 3.5 years. But if people who are watching want to get a real deep dive into what we were talking about, we did put up on our Secretary of State's website at at sos.ri.gov this election cybersecurity report. And so you can look at it, election cybersecurity in Rhode Island. It'll give you the detail on
it. The full rundown, we'll be sure to put a link up there afterwards so you can find out where we're at with cybersecurity. But you've got a couple of reports here.
Yes, I have two show and tells. The other one is regarding improving elections in Rhode Island. After the 2016 election, there's always something you can do better. And so we sat back with the Board of Elections, with a whole task force of people from the community, and went through what could we do better next time for 2018. And the group came up with 17 recommendations. And this updated report, which is Improving Elections in Rhode Island, an update, looks at those 17 recommendations and what happened. One of the concerns that I have about people with government is reports get made and then they sit on a shelf or people never hear whatever happened. And so I wanted to make sure that Rhode Islanders knew that we went to work at it. And of the 17 recommendations, 10 have been met and accomplished, 5 are in progress, and 2 are in hold for a variety of factors. So it's all there on our website at sos.ri.gov on the front page.
And so talk with us about what's in progress right now. Obviously, we're at a little hiatus this week with the General Assembly, but talk with us about your office's agenda with the legislator.
Sure. No, we have a number of issues up in this legislative agenda. First and foremost, with regards to elections, we hope that early in-person voting will finally get a hearing and get passed by the General Assembly in this round. What this would do is to basically do a lean process, make it much simpler for people to vote on those 20 days before the election. Rhode Islanders can right now, according to state law, do an emergency mail ballot 20 days before an election. What we're saying is that process is really very paper intensive. And as more and more Rhode Islanders are taking that opportunity to do so, in fact, we've had an 180% increase in people using emergency mail ballots since 2012.
That's a lot.
So it's a lot. So let's make the process less paper intensive, less cumbersome, and just call it what it is. Early in-person voting, it would just be a regular polling location at your city and town, and you would show your ID, or you would have to get a provisional ballot if you don't have your ID with you, and then cast your ballot right there and then. So the really wonderful thing about this particular piece of legislation, though, is that it also allows Rhode Islanders 4 hours on a Saturday, 4 hours on a Sunday before the election to be able to vote early.
Again, that weekend voting. How much have you heard from folks saying, oh my gosh, during the week, I just can't, I need to do it on the weekend?
It's absolutely true. Look, I know, as an elected mom, my day is completely swamped between work and my kids and everything else. And so it is hard. And so giving people that opportunity on a Saturday or Sunday to be able to go by the city or town hall or wherever that polling location is, I think we're going to see better numbers. And it goes to what I ran for, which is to make government work for people.
And one of the things that, speaking of running for, expect we'll hear from you shortly. We talk about these improvements to the election system from the task force from last year. But you talked about what you ran on and your platform you ran on, and you said you've achieved over 90% of what you said you set out to do.
Yes, I'm very proud of that, and I'm really excited about going back to voters and giving them this report. We did a lot of really hard work and a little bit of luck, and we have results to share. And I was very conscious of making sure that I could deliver to Rhode Islanders what I said I promised. Because again, I think that goes to that trust that people sometimes don't have in elected officials and in government. So I'm very proud of all of those things. But going back to the legislature and some of the other things that we're doing, as you know, we also have a public notary bill to improve the processes for public notary. And I know you focused on this issue, which I'm very glad that you've brought attention to it. Our notary public law is one of the oldest in the country and really hasn't been updated at all or touched.
Okay.
And so what this bill does is it brings it into the 21st century with a couple of things. One is it makes it clear that if you're not an attorney and you are a notary public, which you can be in Rhode Island, you cannot pass yourself as an attorney. In some languages and in some countries, like in Spanish, when you say the word notario público, people assume that you're an attorney. And there's nothing right now in the law to prevent people from doing that. So this would absolutely give us those legal repercussions if somebody were to do that.
So how would you represent yourself ostensibly if you had that notary capacity, but you yourself weren't an attorney?
You would have to disclose in that language that you are not an attorney.
Okay.
Fully disclose that you are not an attorney if you're not an attorney. The other thing that it would do is that it would allow for us to do electronic notarization, which is something that over half of the states have at this point.
Okay.
And really, in terms of mortgage banking, online banking, a lot of different transactions, rather than have to print everything out to then sign it, it allows for that process to happen online, electronically. It's something that industry really wants to be able to do business in the 21st century.
So speaking of doing things online or not online, I just want to go back to the cybersecurity question, because you've run through various scenarios as to things happening during the election process. Is there a thought as to how voting could be addressed if there was something catastrophic, if all systems went down? Could the state actually go back to sort of pen and paper ballot and be able to make that work?
Well, the good news is we have paper ballots. And I want people to hear this, because sometimes when you hear what's happening in other parts of the country, you lose track because it's a while since you last voted.
So if you can't stick it in the machine, someone can actually, you've got a plan that
we have absolutely, we have like contingency plans for when things go wrong. And we hope not to use them, but you have to be prepared in this day and age. So absolutely, we have a really good backup plans.
And speaking of looking forward, though, there's something that's going to be announced from the Secretary of State's office moving forward. This is a new elections website to give folks more information. Looking at May for the new and revamped, what will folks expect to see when they go to this new landing page?
A really wonderfully streamlined one place to find everything you need about elections and data, whether you're a voter, you're a candidate, whether you are just interested in what's happening in Rhode Island in elections, and everything from basic civics to your own, being able to update your own voter address. And it'll be at vote.ri.gov starting May 1st.
Okay, very good. Well, I think we pretty much put you through your paces. Is there anything else you want folks to know while we have you here on live?
Just wonderful to be able to talk with Rhode Islanders about all these improvements. The one other thing that I would mention is we are hoping to proceed with the state archives for the state. And you can see some of the wonderful treasures that we have on our archives page on our website as well. There's some wonderful history that we need to really preserve for the future. And so that's my last piece that I have pending in this legislative process. So.
Okay, well, I appreciate getting you today. Again, a little quiet up at the State House, but there's some fun. There's a lot of student groups around, and I appreciate your taking the time to come here on live. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate.
Secretary of State Nellie Gorbea. We'll be right back with our next guest here on GoLocal Live at the Rhode Island State House.